Was a woman's worth truly measured by the size of her womb? Did a kingdom ever truly fall because a single bedchamber witnessed a transgression? Let's be honest, haven't you always wondered what really happened in those ancient tales of broken empires and silenced screams? Forget dusty tomes and academic debates. This isn't about dissecting history, it's about breathing life back into the whispers of women lost to time. Imagine a world where a glance, a shadow, a single desperate plea could shatter a nation. It started with Lucretia, a name etched in marble, a legend stained with crimson. Ovid paints her as a porcelain doll, a fragile beauty whose demise mirrors the slow, agonizing death of Rome. He describes her weeping, a cascade of sorrow mirroring the wool beneath her fingers, a pathetic tableau of innocence destroyed. But Livy doesn't offer pity. He lays it bare, a brutal abduction, a desperate scramble for survival, a nation born from the stolen flesh of Sabine women. Think about it, Rome wasn't built on love, it was built on need. These women weren't simply violated, they were vessels, potential mothers, the very key to Rome's propagation. It's chillingly pragmatic, isn't it? Let's rewind. Picture this, a Roman festival, a glittering spectacle of armor and boasts. The air crackles with rivalry, a desperate competition for the most beautiful, the most virtuous wife. And then, Lucretia. A vision of untouched beauty, a silent queen in a world of warriors. Sextus Tarquinius, a whirlwind of lust and ambition, sees her and, well, he sees her. It's not a romantic pursuit, it's a calculated grab, a violation of boundaries, a theft of something sacred. He doesn't woo her with poetry, he wields a sword, a terrifying symbol of his power. Ovid focuses on the feeling of the event, the agonizing silence, the suffocating fear. He describes Lucretia's trembling, her desperate attempts to speak, trapped in a nightmare of forced intimacy. It's a descent into psychological torment, a slow, agonizing unraveling of her spirit. But Livy, he's interested in the political fallout. The outrage, the rebellion, the violent overthrow of a dynasty. Lucretia's death isn't just a personal tragedy, it's a catalyst, a spark that ignites a revolution. Now let's shift gears, fast forward centuries. Helen of Troy, a name synonymous with beauty, betrayal, and the utter collapse of civilization. Forget the tragic romance, this is a calculated move, a strategic abduction. Helen wasn't a victim, she was a prize, a bargaining chip, a symbol of power. Paris, a prince driven by desire, doesn't simply take her, he seizes her, a blatant act of ownership. Imagine the sheer audacity. A queen snatched from her palace, spirited away to a foreign shore. The Greeks, blinded by their obsession with Helen, launch a decade-long war. Cities burn, heroes fall, and empires crumble, all because of a stolen woman. It's absurd, isn't it? The sheer scale of the devastation, the endless bloodshed, fueled by a single, impulsive act. But here's the kicker, Helen agreed to go with Paris, consent. It's a word that feels shockingly foreign in these ancient narratives. It's not about rape as we understand it today, a brutal act of violence. It's about the complex dynamics of power, desire, and social obligation. A queen doesn't simply give her consent, she's offered it, often under duress, within the confines of her societal role. Let's talk about the Sabine women. Picture this, a desperate barren Rome, a nation clinging to the edge of extinction. The men are strong, but they lack the one thing they desperately need: women to bear children. The solution? A brutal, calculated abduction. The Sabine women are seized, dragged back to Rome, and forced into marriage. It's horrifying, undeniably so. But Livy frames it as a pragmatic necessity, a brutal solution to a desperate problem. The women themselves are presented as passive recipients, their resentment supposedly fading once they're promised marriage, privilege, and affection. But there's a subtle shift, a creeping sense of unease. Ovid, writing centuries later, offers a different perspective. He focuses on Lucretia's internal torment, her agonizing struggle against her fate. He emphasizes the violation of her spirit, the destruction of her innocence. He paints her as a victim, stripped of her agency, reduced to a passive object of desire. It's a stark contrast to Livy's depiction of the Sabine women as potential mothers, their value determined solely by their reproductive capacity. The medieval interpretations of these stories only amplify this tension. Lucretia becomes a symbol of chastity, a warning against female transgression. Her suicide is not simply an act of defiance, it's a testament to her unwavering virtue. But even in these later retellings, the underlying power dynamics remain. Lucretia's death is still framed as a consequence of her own choices, a punishment for her perceived moral failings. Think about it, these stories aren't just about individual acts of violence, they're about the construction of gender roles, the assertion of patriarchal power, and the silencing of female voices. Rape and abduction aren't simply isolated incidents, they're symptoms of a deeper societal malaise, a reflection of a world where women are treated as property, their bodies and their destinies controlled by men. The recurring motif of raptus abduction highlights this dynamic. It's not just about physical violence, it's about the violation of autonomy, the theft of a woman's agency. It's about the erasure of her identity, the reduction of her to a commodity, a pawn in a larger game. And what about the silence? The women in these stories rarely speak for themselves. They're observed, analyzed, and interpreted by men. Their voices are drowned out by the clamor of war, the pronouncements of kings, and the judgments of theologians. Lucretia's final words, "I am innocent," are a desperate plea for recognition, a futile attempt to reclaim her narrative. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of these tales is their enduring relevance. Even today, women around the world continue to experience violence, exploitation, and control. The echoes of Lucretia's silenced scream, of Helen's stolen beauty, of the Sabine women's forced compliance, resonate through the centuries. So what do we take away from these ancient narratives? Perhaps it's not a simple condemnation of the past, but a reminder of the ongoing struggle for gender equality, for the recognition of female agency, and for the dismantling of systems that perpetuate violence and oppression. These stories aren't just relics of a bygone era, they're cautionary tales urging us to confront the uncomfortable truths about power, desire, and the enduring legacy of trauma. And finally, a question for you. If a kingdom truly fell because of a single act of violation, would you mourn the loss of its grandeur or rage at the injustice that brought it to its knees?